I think we're in the 800s somewhere. To be very honest with you,
Wow,
it's I
jeepers.
think it's in the 11th season right now, and typically we put out about 80. Well, it's one a week now, so that's 56. Perhaps a few more when there's big events and stuff on the go. But yeah, it's up there. 11 seasons. We were 100-ish in the beginning. Yeah, it's over 800 as far as I'm
Wow.
aware. I need to double check on that.
2016, hey? It got the rubber met the road.
Gosh, it's all a bit of a blur right now. I remember I think it was February when the tour asked me to do a podcast.
Mm.
I can't remember the year because it was a streaming show for 3 days a week. And it was just a golf magazine show. And that, I didn't feel like that was working very well. And the first month of the podcast, I got 10 downloads. And then I was like, oh gosh. And then it grew, and the next month was like 39. And then I used to take pictures of the screenshots from each month.
Mm.
And it was just a goal to get to 1,000 a month. And then the next thing, it was 20,000 and 50,000 and 100,000. And it started growing when it became golf instruction, because it just clearly people around the world want to get better at golf. And, like I was a young kid in South Africa, I couldn't get a lesson from a Butch Harmon or someone like that. So just making these great minds and these players and stuff available to folks, not just in the United States but around the world, sort of became the sweet spot. And now it's grown a life beyond me. I'm sure anyone could host the show and would do just fine.
Mm. Well, I mean, I suppose that I don't know. I think you're doing yourself a disservice there. I think people have come to appreciate you. You've got a tremendous personal brand in the game of golf. We'll chat about that in a minute, but I don't think
Hmm.
I think you're selling yourself short there for sure.
Well, thanks. Well, the good thing is that it becomes a conversation between two golf teachers.
Mm.
And I've been in the game enough where I've seen the fads and the trends, and I've spoken with a lot of really smart, very accomplished people in the game. So you can sort of, not that I try and catch people out, but you can catch out the fly by nighters a little bit.
Mm.
Just with some pointed questions and stuff. And because I know that like when I interview, it's not an interview, it's more like a conversation, and I listen like a fan. Like I believe before every show I'm going into the show, um, and I'm going to learn something,
Yeah.
despite the fact that I've taught golf since 1996. So that helps. And so because I listen like a fan, I'm asking questions that I know the golfer who's watching or listening wants to know. And so that's sort of, I can get the conversation to flow in a direction where perhaps just an interviewer couldn't.
Mm.
So thanks. I appreciate you saying so. Yeah, it's my golf teaching background helps me run the show well.
Yeah. Has there been something over those 800 plus episodes where you've changed your mind on something? You had a perception, a viewpoint around something. Maybe it's on a golfing front, maybe it's on the psychology front, maybe it's on a life management front. It can be anything. Is there something that
Hmm.
stands out to you where something, that stands out that, oh, wow, okay, didn't think of it like that. And then you've made that change in philosophy with respect to golf or life?
Well, yes, probably many occasions. I will tell you this: in many interviews, I've went or many shows. Let me correct that. I've gone into the show with an idea of the message that I wanted the podcast to represent, perhaps like a title, so you can. Because the thing about podcasting, it's nice just to have one of those conversations. But when you're in golf instruction, people are looking for something special or something, quantifiable. So you go in there with an idea, and then the conversation starts going one way, and then midway through the conversation, I'm realizing that what the goal of the show was is completely changing. But to me, those are some of the good ones. And as far as instruction goes, I think with the advent of biomechanical information, um, a lot of the things that I knew in my soul, just from being in golf for a while, those have been galvanized. And then there's been one or other two approaches through information, like um, from like pressure mapping. how your feet and how the body weight moves, and then how the body moves with 3D information. That has been eye-opening in many occasions. I feel like it's made me feel good, because in many ways some of the things that these machines and all this technology are proving are things that some of us old-timey golf instructors knew anyway. And it was just kind of a feel that people would teach. But now with this stuff, we get to put some data behind it. And the cool thing with the data is that it almost um, it helps people to move their way toward the field. And for argument's sake, let's say I say to a guy, well, you got to try and get, I don't know, your left arm against your chest a bit more. And he feels like he's doing it, he or she. But then you put him on one or other biomechanical machine, 3D measuring device, and then you'll say, well, I've got to do it 10 times. I'm only doing it twice right now. So it just helps them to move it along and move them beyond that uncomfortable range, because they're doing something more. So, yeah, I would say that, the advent of this information has certainly been eye-popping and eye-opening, and it's helped everybody in the industry.
Yeah, on that note, I think it's very important to elaborate on the fact that what gets measured gets managed, right? People talk about it in a business sense, but in terms of a range of motion, for example, coming at it from like a golf fitness standpoint, or a certain feeling in the golf swing, and then being able to measure that and then put something in place where you can also measure improvement, because it gets quite
Yeah,
easy to not be able to decipher the wood from the tree, so to speak. If you feel like you're doing something, but you don't have a measurable outcome, whether or not you're actually improving, barring when you then go out onto the golf course, when we know that's a completely different dynamic altogether, being on the range to then being on the course. And it's the same in the gym as well, having measurables, being able to, you could jump a certain height, now you can jump a little bit higher. You could do a split squat of however many kilos or pounds, and now you can do it with this much. And
yeah.
that further just invests the person, the golfer, the client into the process, because they're able to see improvement. So I think that's a really
Mm.
powerful thing. And yeah, technology has been great from that standpoint. Fully agree.
I would I would add to that, the thing about golf is that, look, the ultimate tell of what a person is doing is how the golf ball is traveling. But then I've found here, through years and years of being in it and the experience of it, there are direct influences on how the golf ball travels, and indirect influences. Like, we could work, I could send someone to you and they could improve their jump factor and all this sort of stuff. In the end, when golf, it's got to translate to how the golf ball travels. And there's certain micro influences a bit more there. So the skill of how the hands and wrists and arms move are still somewhere where there's companies coming through where they can measure that sort of stuff. But that's where kind of to use your term, the rubber meets the road. Like, I can get a guy pivoting a whole lot better, or shifting between his feet better, or anything that's within the body and the torso. But those are indirect influences. They certainly set the table to be able to make presentation of the club face better and easier, but it's still got to be done. That's the thing. So that's where I feel like nowadays, with all of this biomechanical stuff, some of the newer instructors, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody here, but some of them get so married to that information that they forget that golf is a game of distance and direction.
Mm.
And everyone's going about distance right now because it's the new hot thing. But I can promise you, distance going in the wrong direction is not viable in golf at all.
Yeah.
So that's where some of the folks are getting shown up. Like, I talk with people and they're giving me this and that and all this stuff, and I'm like, really? Let me tell you, when you speak into an elite golfer and he's on the 16th hole and he's got to hit one down a fairway, he's not thinking about how his pelvis is going to move through contact.
Mm-mm.
He is taking a bat and moving a ball in a certain direction as efficiently as possible. So that's where in golf, all of the stuff is helpful, but it has to be kept in its not priority, but in context. And the context is that in the end, we're trying to propel a golf ball toward a hole in as few strokes as possible.
Yeah, I think that context is valuable, and I think that's what makes a good teacher a good teacher is you now have access to these tools, but they are just tools. And as somebody who understands the golf swing, understands the body in my space, you can make the most out of those tools, but you have to still decipher and filter what is relevant to that person and then deliver just the core message for them to then go and implement. Because it's very easy to get lost in
Yeah,
all the
no,
numbers. I mean, there's 1,001, it feels like, different TrackMan numbers, for example. If you want to look at that, you can look at a K-Motion 3D swing analysis, and you've got all the everything connected and the graphs and all of that sort of thing, the acceleration sequence, the deceleration sequence. And you can get really lost in that. And it's the same in the fitness space, like with Whoop, for example. Fantastic product, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you can really get paralysis through analysis there if you don't know what numbers to pay attention to where. So yeah, I fully subscribe to what you're saying there, and that's the art of a good teacher, I believe. Going back to your
the,
background,
the
Mark.
I want to add one more thing real
Go
fast.
for it.
For any golf teacher or anyone listening to this, the the danger that I'm beginning to find is that if you know just enough to be dangerous, and in the beginning of this all, I was that guy,
Mm,
and I found myself being that when I was asking questions and trying to learn. That when I got into the sphere, it's like switching on AI and just typing in a question. And the danger behind all this stuff is the folks who don't really know and don't really understand and don't really keep the context of what golf represents, is that when they're looking at all this data and this information about how the body's moving, there's a tendency to want to move people to the average.
mm,
And the time I've spent around like really elite athletes, they are elite because they are not average. So so I feel like you can learn more, or one can learn more by looking at how the elites move and what they do when the pressure is up.
mm,
Because there's gold in that stuff too, where most folks will get a TrackMan or a flight scope or whatever the case might be, and they take the tutorials and stuff, and then some guy will hit a ball and they'll be like, well, swing path is this and your swing path is that, and it should be this. But I'll show you someone like a Rory McIlroy whose swing path, if you didn't know who he was, your average golf teacher would be changing that thing, because they would be like, well, he's well outside of the norm. I'm like, heck yes, he's well outside of the norm. He's a generational golfer, and what he does repeats itself. And it's just all about managing that. So that is where another key in using this information and these tools at our disposal a whole lot more efficiently and smartly.
Now, I might come at that from a different angle and say, okay, so we're watching a Rory McIlroy generational talent, a Cam Young, who's really, really hot on the scene right now. Amateur golfers can take lessons from that, sure, but a lot of them physically can't even get into the positions that those golfers, those elite level golfers, are getting into. And then they might find it disconcerting because they might try this thing. For example, most people will find it really difficult not to extend early in the golf swing just because they have really poor hip mobility, glute strength, and hamstring flexibility. So then they go and they try and apply what Rory might be doing, Scotty or Cam Young, and they might be barking up the wrong tree because they just physically don't have the ability. So how do we
Mm-hmm.
measure that? Um, we measure, how do we find a happy medium between taking what elite level golfers are doing in terms of lessons and then applying it to our own game, but still adding a pinch of salt with that to make sure that we're still improving as amateur golfers who are playing once a week and sit behind a desk for 8 hours a day?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's where, look, I was teaching these guys at one stage, but now my career has pivoted to broadcast. But I still come at my craft from a teaching bent. Um, and from my days when I was working with top flight golfers and beginners alike, um, I felt like there had to be a really good understanding and communication between the physical trainer, the golf instructor, the psychologist, whoever the team, as you hear the modern day golfers speaking of, whoever the team is, there's got to be good communication between all of them. And then the goal setting has got to be commensurate. And so for me, eventually, like let's talk early extension, right? Um, for me, I grade a golf swing with three criterion in mind. And the first one is the most important thing because the golf ball goes as you strike it. So I want to see a golf swing that presents a square club face and makes a center strike the majority of the time. And when I say square, that's relative. It's a functional club face to its swing path, but a good strike is key. Because if you're striking the ball sweetly, the ball's going to travel better. Simple as that. So that's criteria number one. Number two, I look for something that is leveraged or creates maximum speed for minimum effort. Because I feel like that's also lost nowadays. Like I see people putting a lot of effort into stuff, and they're working hard for minimum speed, where you get the effortless power out of certain people, where every lever is working in time with each other, and they're propelling the club face. So maximum speed for minimum effort. That's number two. And number three is I want to see the thing repeat under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, if a golf swing answers yes to those three questions, then the golf swing is functional. And whoever the instructor is got to look beyond the aesthetics of it and understand that this is good. And you're beginning to see, and this has been a departure for me because when I started teaching golf in the mid 90s, I was part of the Sony Handycam brigade. We had a camera, and if we were lucky enough to have Ernie Els swing footage and Tiger Woods swing footage,
Yeah.
we just compare people to that,
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, you see swings that are looking more, to use an Arnold Palmerism, they're looking like your own swing. And the user or the swinger of the golf club understands what his or her tendencies are to make this thing return to home base, because everything gets off. And then you'll get some lazy golf instructor that will say to someone, well, your swing is more based on timing. And my argument would be like, there's timing to everything because there's 100 different moving parts in a golf swing in the space of less than a second. So um, through it all, despite all the information, and let's say you're an early extender, but you do it every single time, and you hit the ball squarely, and the ball goes like you're wanting it to do,
Yeah.
we need to understand like what's the timing of when you early extend, etc. Because it might be a little early, it might be a little late, and that causes issues. Instead of trying to fix the early extension, if that makes
Cyril
sense.
Hatton comes to mind as far as a great,
Oh yeah, and the guy's a
great
freaking
golf,
assassin. I mean,
great golfer that extends
he
early.
yeah, he could drive it through a gnat's rear end. He's so accurate. So yeah, that's sort of how I come at the thing. So I did a presentation to a group of PGA professionals in Michigan a few months ago, and the point that I was trying to make was to teach people to go from teacher to coach, because a coach is holistic about the approach. A teacher has just got one thing, right? And so I'm like, there's a syndrome, I call it the hammer and the nail syndrome, where if all you have in your tool belt is a hammer, then everything in the world is going to appear like a nail. And I see so many up and coming instructors and coaches, well, not coaches because they're not coaches yet, like Butch Harmon is a coach. Like he'll stand there on the range and tell you jokes for a while if he feels like your swing's fine, even though you're not hitting it well. He won't be captured by the moment to make some sort of a inane change. Anyhow, so a lot of young teachers coming out there and they've got that launch monitor and they're just trying to jam people into number variances again, as opposed to just looking at the thing, having the wisdom and the patience and the know-how to go, it's okay right now. Uh, Golf is a game that is more than just swinging a golf club appropriately. There's many different elements to it. So that's where kind of I think the lines get blurred a little bit. So to get back to your question, long-winded to get there. No, like I know enough about what you do to be dangerous, and I can see, but I can't coach. So when I call you in, I'll be making sure to say, look, this is what we're aiming for. Let's work around that, as opposed to physical trainer coming in with this thing and a teacher coming in with that, and they're all people that are pulling the rope in different directions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I've got no problem with syndromes, because nowadays golf instruction is loaded with jargon. And if you switch on the internet and you type in early extension, you're going to see 1,000 videos on it.
Yeah.
and there's stuff, and there's wrist flexion and extension, and there's all of these terms now that make people sound smart. And it's folks that are just helping golfers play worse, because the golfers are leaving confused as opposed to empowered and understanding who they are and what their tendencies are when the pressure gets up.
Yeah, well said, Mark. I'd like to pivot in a different direction now because the Immelman name is synonymous in South African golf. Obviously,
Okay.
your brother needs no introduction, but I didn't realize that your father Johan was the commissioner at the Sunshine Tour. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for 4 or 5 years he moved back there. He said he loved his time as commissioner. Look, golf has blessed our family immensely. And there's a golf thread throughout. I mean, it's our family, my wife, her family, the Martins are. There's they're professional golfers on that side. So it's sort of connected all of us, and it's blessed all of us, and it's opened some doors that you couldn't begin to fathom. So yeah, we're just very, very fortunate.
With that in mind, I asked you to do some homework before the show. I don't do it very often, but if you
I don't do homework very well.
yeah, neither do I. So, but I am interested because of that thread. I wanted to find out from you if you could summarize what golf means to you in one word. What word would that be?
I've got a couple one-word answers for that question.
Cool.
Um, I wanted to say love affair, but that was 2 words. So I'm going to say passion.
Mm.
And there's a meaning to all of that over there. I will also say this, that another word that I had in mind was sacrifice. Because for all the aspirant young South African golfers and coaches and whoever, I've got a I've got a very understanding family with my wife and my kids, because everything that we've been fortunate enough to do has come at the heels of something. Um, the There's a lot of time away from home. Golf occupies a lot of the conversation over the dinner table, and so I would say the two big ones for me are passion and sacrifice.
And can you elaborate on those two? You've touched on sacrifice. What about passion?
Well, golf is that very cool, very sucky game where I laugh when people come for lessons, and I'm like, well, why do you play golf? And they're like, well, for fun and to relax. And then that's the same person who's losing their mind, and they're aggravated because they're playing badly. All
Yeah.
right. So golf is that kind of game where you're going to lose way more than you win. And because of that, it's like marriage, really, right? And good marriages, it's not all smooth sailing, but there's a deep love and passion. Like I said love affair, but that was 2 words.
Mm.
So, like with my wife, for argument's sakes, good times, bad times, richer for poorer, sickness and in health, you know, that's my wife, and this is my partner, my life partner. And golf's the same way. And if you have that relationship with golf, if you're passionate about it, it's going to help you through the times when the golf is down.
Yeah.
And if you're passionate about it, it's going to drive you to the gym, and it's going to drive you to go and practice, and it's going to drive you to go and make the sacrifices required to get better. Because no one ever fell to the top of the ladder. And it's the same thing in any golf. And for any golfer who's wanting to achieve something worthwhile, it's going to take some sacrifice. And the sacrifice involves giving up the party or foregoing the vacation. Like my daughter is missing a family vacation later this summer because of college golf. But that's just what gets done. That's what my brother and I both had to do. And so that's where the passion, the love affair with it comes in, because you make the sacrifices.
Yeah, that's so true. I wanted to come back. You spoke about sacrifice and spending time on the range and beating balls on the range, and everybody loves to talk about the grind, and both on the golf course and of course in business and that sort of thing. But I've got a client of mine. He's on the DP World Tour now. He's a 38-year-old rookie on the DP
Oh,
World Tour, and
love those stories.
yeah, and he came on the show and he spoke about how he does less practice now than he ever has, and yet he's getting the best results he's ever gotten. And he's got a family. He's got two young daughters. And I thought that was such an interesting thing to ponder, because we
Yeah.
talk about in training in the gym, minimal effective dose. What's the least amount of work that one has to do to get the desired result? And it's a
Hmm.
very easy thing to post on social media about the grind and hardest work in the room and all of that. And then for a lot of people, that might have its place. Don't get me wrong. But how do you feel about that concept of minimal effective dose and working efficiently so that you can maximize an outcome, a desired outcome, in the shortest possible time, to then spend your time doing other stuff? Maybe you've got an hour
Yeah.
or two to spend with your kids instead of grinding it out on the range, or maybe it's an extra time to just go and chill out. Speak to me about your philosophies or thoughts on that concept, minimal effective dose.
No, I completely agree there. Um, I would say about your client, he's right. But the sacrifices that I guarantee you his kids and wife aren't traveling to Europe with him when he goes over there and plays. So there's time away. So he's making sacrifices to chase his dreams, if you will.
Yeah.
But as far as grinding on the range, I was looking back on my career as a player. That was the mistake I made. I grinded too much. And I felt like if one was good, well, two must be better. And if two's better, three must be the best. So you just kept going. Where then I got fortunate to have a conversation with arguably the greatest golfer of all time in Jack Nicklaus. And I know that's controversial, but
Whoa,
he
you
was
can't
like,
say
when I
that.
got it, well, I can say that because I'm the bridge between the old and the new.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
The Jack was like, I would practice until when I got it. And when I got it, I then would go and work on a different element of the game
Hmm.
because there's so many different elements to the game. So it's not grinding time out on the range. I heard Venus Williams yesterday. I'm dating this podcast, so forgive me, but it was a television show covering the French Open, and she talked about finding it, and she goes, "It's amazing in practice. Sometimes you have really bad practices." But now the wisdom of her is like, well, I'm not going to grind through that bad practice and still try and find it. I'm just going to know that what I did was good enough. So there's wisdom as your client puts out. But on the heels of that, I don't. I know the modern day kid because I was a college coach for 20 something years. And if I had to say to a group of modern day kids, "Yo, bro, you got to find life balance and sacrifice and all the rest of it, and you're going to turn out great," I guarantee you, there's thousands of kids in Korea and China and Australia and all who are working right now. So it's like, what is your concept of grind? Because my concept of grind is probably infinitely different to somebody else's. I also will say this, though, about grinding on the range. That was a mistake that I made, and I'm sure my brother would tell you the same thing. I'm not speaking for him, but there's a very wise woman in my life, and her name is Tracy. And Tracy often asks me, she goes, our daughter, should play more. So going out and playing golf, there's no substitute for that. And if you're honestly playing golf, that's 4 hours of your day. So there still are sacrifices, but I agree wholeheartedly with what your 38-year-old rookie client says. We can sometimes get too wrapped up in the thing, and then we lose the forest for the trees.
Yeah, yeah. I Coming back to then, I mean, you spend so much time on the PGA Tour, and
Mhm.
you've coached, you've played at an incredibly high level, you've coached, and then now you are privy to watching the best golfers in the world
Yeah.
competing week in and week out. What is a misconception that the general public, like myself and people that are staying up late on a Sunday night watching the PGA Tour here in South Africa, what is a general
Uh-huh.
misconception that we might have of those players that are on the PGA Tour right now?
I'm going to say two things. The Well, first off, whenever I get back to South Africa, or I get lots of tweets and messages and stuff, back when Ernie was playing on the tour, it would be like, "Why is Ernie playing so cuck?" And it's all this sort of stuff where Ernie's finishing 20th instead of winning, right?
Mm,
And then you get these questions about players like, "Where's this? Where's that?" Where the conception of it all is that you got to really be good to suck on the PGA Tour. That's the first thing I'm going to say to you. You don't stumble onto the PGA Tour. These oaks are the best of the very best. And when we're watching them, when you're seeing our shows on the weekend, you're seeing the guys who are playing the best of the best. And even so, and this is my observation, and it was galvanized for me a couple of weeks ago when my daughter was alongside. She sometimes, when she gets time off, she comes out to events with us, and she walks as a spotter for me on the golf course. So she gets inside the ropes and she can watch these guys play from close. And she said, we were driving back to the hotel, she was like, he shot 68, but he wasn't perfect at all. Was driving the ball a bit crooked, was missing greens in regulation, and finding a way to cobble together a score. And so that's the big misconception, I feel like, for all young golfers. They feel like these guys are hitting the ball perfectly all the time. They are never missing short putts. It couldn't be further from the truth. Golf is like a marathon where you might run a bad lap, but you don't have to make it all up on the next go around. You just got to now inch your way, just make up a few seconds on your next lap, kind of thing. And that's what PGA Tour golf represents. It's kind of a war of attrition. If it's a birdie bonanza, you don't have to birdie every hole. That's something I learned from Ernie Els because he's a year older than me. When he turned pro, I said to him, "So what's the goal?" Because we all knew he was going to be a superstar. And his response to me, I'll never forget, was like, "I just want to shoot 69 every time I play." And look, 69 is not 60 or one of these rounds we're seeing out of guys. But if you add 4 69s up, that's 12 under, and it's going to be pretty competitive in most events you play. It may not have contended in the CJ Cup in Dallas where 30 under was winning.
Geez, that was a birdie fest, man.
But it's but still 30 under means that in 72 holes you're not birdieing every hole. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's I feel like the young golfer feels like they have to be too good. The PGA Tour golfer, when he misses in the smart side. If you watch Scotty Scheffler play, he's quintessential. Never misses on the weak side of the flag unless it's a really bad pass he makes it. Is always playing from the clever side of the target. He's very cerebral. And so it's this mixture of smarts with talent. And so that's the thing. I think the misconception is that these guys are perfect. Even on the weekend when we have the best golfers going, they're missing shots. It's just that they recover. Golf at the highest level is a game of recovery. It always has been, and it always will be, because you are never perfect.
Yeah. Speaking of perfect, what if we go the other way? What is the best golf shot you've been able to witness live? Does something come to mind? Could be it could be in the context of maybe he's under pressure at a major, or she. It could be a putt. It could be anything. What's a shot that comes to mind when you're like, goodness gracious, I don't think that's ever going to be
my on-course spotter. I have a crew that works with me on the course. My on-course spotter, Craig. We keep a list because we can quickly. It's a mistake on our behalf, but you can get quickly numb to the fact, and you can take your job for granted, right? And we get to see these talents execute all the time, and it's a thrill. But if you get grizzled and veteran about the thing, you don't appreciate it for how good it is. And that's why I love having people along with me once in a while so they can see. And then I watch their response to some of these shots they see. Because these shots are like, holy heck, how are they doing this stuff? So I've seen thousands. There's shots where someone will hit something and he'll look back at me and go, that was one of those. And then at the end of the year, we compare our lists over our season-ending dinner.
That's so cool.
I'd need to go to my list. I don't have it handy. I'd say, at the risk of recency bias, here in 2026, we had the playoff between Matt Fitzpatrick and Scotty Scheffler. And 18 there at Harbour Town was playing into a cold, gusty wind in off the left, which is a right-hander's kryptonite. The 18th fairway is wide, but the green is narrow. And there's peril all the way around the left. And if you miss on the right, it's no guaranteed up and in. And now it's just down to two people. And Fitzy hits this 4-iron. When it left the club face, it took off like a homesick angel. Turns out there was a one-handed follow-through that we didn't see. And when we saw it on TV afterwards, I asked him, and he goes, "No, I pulled it a little bit." And so I let go because I thought it was in trouble. But this thing was rifled through there, through the wind, landed by the hole, 12 feet, birdie to win. Scotty was closer to the target and missed it. So that 4-iron he hit was pretty special. But I'd say the one that keeps sticking out in my mind, and again, I've seen thousands, so this is, I'm not giving credit where it's due to some of the stuff I've seen, was in Mexico at a golf course called Chapultepec. I had the Tiger Woods group, and he and Abraham Anser were finishing on the 9th hole. It was on Friday afternoon late, and the fans have shown up en masse. And 9 goes uphill, turns around this big old tree that you would probably see in a horror movie in a graveyard. No leaves, gnarled big limbs and stuff everywhere, and there's a fairway bunker just short of it. And Tiger wasn't playing very well by his standards, and hits a long iron off the tee and misses the fairway in that bunker. And I go and have a look, and I look at the ball, and I look at the lip, and I see the tree, and the green's behind the tree, and I'm like, no chance. And so they come to me for a quick update, and I'm like, well, good lie in the bunker, but I just don't see anything happening out here. He's probably going to hit this out to the left and set up some sort of wedge from 50, 60 yards. Anyway, so they go, and they're showing something else, and they come back to me, and he's making practice swings. And I see he's making this practice swing that looks like he's making this massive slicing pass. And on my little on-course box, you flick on the air and you flick to speak to the production crew. So it's 2 different streams. So I hit my producer. I'm like, you need to get back to this quickly because I think he's trying this shot. So they come back as he steps into the bunker. And I get a club signal. He's hitting 8-iron. And it was like 175 yards uphill. And I'm seeing these swings, and I'm like, this guy, well, this wasn't the words I was using. I'm like, he's trying to fade this thing around or slice this thing around the tree. And so they get this cool view down the line. You can probably still find it on social media. We hit this thing with an 8-iron. It barely clears the bunker lip. And you see him make this wicked follow through where the club's kind of like, Zorro in the air because he's trying to hold the face open. And this thing starts out 30 yards left of the target. It flies by the tree and just starts cutting. And I'm like, I remember saying shot of the day while the ball was still in midair. It hits the left side of the green. There was a front right hole location. It hit, spun to the right, nearly went in, and ended like 15 feet away. And I remember the show we were on, the show's analyst was like, holy moly. That's what the response was. And to this day, because Nota Begay was covering for NBC, and he was in the fairway too. And Nota and Tiger are friends, and Tiger gets out the bunker, and he sort of smiles at Nota and sort of goes, yeah, you see that? And Tiger walks past me, and I'm like, nice shot, man. And he looks at me like this, and the Tiger grin.
Yeah.
He just flashes this massive grin as if to say, yeah, I'm the man. So that one will live with me for as long as I draw breath.
Jeez, that is such a story, man. And it's hard to conceptualize exactly how good that is. I mean, we've all seen those YouTube compilations of Tiger doing all these incredible things, but I can imagine watching it in real time and watching it play out where there's this anticipation, like you're there, you take a look at the shot and you're like, just there's no ways, because TV doesn't really do it justice, right? Like, I mean, you see the shot on TV, but you don't know exactly how difficult that shot might be, and I suppose that's the role of a great commentator. But yeah, I mean, what a privilege.
Yeah, this ball hit sliced at least 30 yards, and then sliced when it hit the ground too, or it spun right. And you're right that sometimes when you're seeing television angles, it doesn't do the thing justice. But that's our role on the course, is we would provide context to it. But sometimes it's beyond words. I'll never forget, there's so many great announcers that have worked for CBS and these networks and stuff. And when I see the list of them, I'm overcome at the fact that I'm actually part of the lineage. And one of the great voices was CBS, is a guy called Steve Melnick. And Steve was part of the CBS crew that covered the Masters for many years. And when Larry Myers, the flag's over there, I used to teach him for a while. when he chipped in to beat Greg Norman. The key to being a good announcer is to say the right thing at the right time and not speak too much, because I think people get verbal diarrhea because it's still a visual medium. And Larry chips it in, and there's not a word said. And there's a camera on Larry who's running around, jumping, grabbing his hat, looking at the heavens and stuff. And Steve, after this, goes, "Words do not do justice to the greatness of that shot." And then he let it go a little bit. It's like the great announcers like Werner Lundqvist, who I'm thankful to know. All those years on 16 at Augusta, 16 and 17 at Augusta National. With Jack, maybe. Yes, sir. Everyone knows that call. It was 3 words.
Yeah. In your
He
life.
did the "in your life." Yeah, exactly. And so you see that those are tower announcers, but our job as the the rover, the on-course guy or girl, is to give you the context and try and tell you what the pictures don't see. But sometimes these guys do stuff that you really don't have the words to describe, especially in the short window of time that we have to talk. So
yeah, exactly.
So it's challenging, but it's challenging, but it's still exhilarating to see some of this stuff.
Jeepers, talk about minimal effective dose, right? You've got a couple seconds to say something out there that's profound and hits the point. Those big time hallmark comments, and I mean, especially at Augusta, Jim Nance is just unbelievable when it comes to that sort of thing. You can rattle off "shot of a lifetime" as the recent one, on 15 2 years ago with Rory, and it's just the most remarkable thing. I saw a video with him once. He was being interviewed about it, and he was just like, "You've got that winning moment at Augusta on 18. He has a little part in history there, because he knows that whatever he says when that winning putt drops is going to be repeated for a golfing eternity online, and to be able to come up with something that encapsulates that moment but still allows it to play out, like you say, in that visual medium. I mean, it's just the most incredible thing. And I think something that people don't really understand how challenging that is. And even being on course as well, like yourself. I mean, it's a remarkable skill.
Yeah, it's well, that's the thing too. If you listen to a great tower announcer, well, even us, I mean, our producer gets really aggravated if we talk over the strike of the ball, because the whack of the ball, the natural, the audio to that is exhilarating if you really listen. So he hates voices over the top of that, and if the crowds go up, you'll typically hear us on CBS. There won't be an announcer talking. You'll live the moment in the crowd like you were there, and then whoever it is has got the call will cap it. To Jim, couple things. He's incredible at what he does, and he loves golf. He absolutely loves golf. And I know when I've made a good call, because he'll build on that, or if I've had a good observation. So first off, a lot of people don't, they'll remember the maybe yes sir thing with Jack in '86 at the Masters. On 16, when Jack hit a 5-iron in there, or whatever it was, to a few feet and makes the birdie putt, Nance's call was "the bear comes out of hibernation."
Oh, nice.
Which is brilliant, which people forget, right? That was kind of his moment when that's sort of, he had the main tower in his destiny after that. But at the Colonial event here in 2026, we're coming down the stretch there. It's tight. All of a sudden, Russell Henley starts making birdies, and he's got a putt on the last hole from like 15, 16 feet to post to tie the lead. And there's a lot of time, and ordinarily on the final green, it's Jim's show. But Jim, he set it up, and it's a live call, so I'm seeing all of this. So I summon up my courage to say something to the effect of, Russell Henley is a fantastic athlete. And in high school, he was an expert point guard, and that's the guy, kind of the scrum half of basketball. He distributes the ball. And I'm like, he's a tremendous shooter. And he's the kind of guy, and again, I'm paraphrasing, he's the kind of guy that he gets this look in his eye, and it's kind of a green light guy. You can see when he's going to make something. So I set it up with saying he's an expert basketball player. When he gets the look, it's green light and he shoots. Then I lay out. Then there's a few seconds, Russell's over the ball and he hits it. And Jim goes, the old point guard shoots, and the ball goes in, and then he goes and scores. And it made, at the moment, it was electric because the crowds went up. Russell, who normally is quite staid, is like he's walking around pumping his fists and stuff. And I remember feeling so excited that Jim built off my point guard call, in the basketball, which was awesome.
So cool.
But that's where because good announcing, you'll hear people play off each other, and it's like a round table conversation, adding context to just this one moment that's happening.
Wow, that's fantastic, man. That's so fascinating, being able to get insight behind the scenes on what goes on. And I hope people can have a new appreciation of it when we tune in the next couple of weeks. US Open around the corner. It would be remiss of me not to ask you, Scotty, going for the Grand Slam, first shot at the Grand Slam. Do you think?
Well, first, there's two major networks that cover golf. The one is NBC, and we're at CBS. That's an NBC week, so I'll be on vacation. I'll be watching it like you guys.
No. Okay.
Does he at Shinnecock? Yeah, absolutely. Shinnecock loves accurate. It's a great golf course with some undulation change. It's on Long Island in New York. But if you miss a fairway, there's like fescue everywhere. And as reliable as what he is off the tee around a golf course that dries out really quickly, so par becomes a good score. He's like the ultimate marathoner. He just hangs around, and then finds that closing kick. So does he have a chance? Yeah, absolutely. Is it going to happen? Completing a goal like that is the hardest thing, because the closer, you'll see it at every event, the closer a person gets to the finish line, the harder it becomes, because your mind starts wandering and stuff like that. And if he's close to well, look, when they get there on Tuesday or Monday or whatever it is, the first question he's going to get is like, well, Scotty, Grand Slam.
Yeah.
So the media are highlighting the thing. So your mind gets to going, but he's got this incredible ability to keep stuff in its perspective. And so mentally, he's as strong as, I would argue, as strong as Tiger Woods, when I've watched him play. And so, yeah, can he do it? Absolutely. Is it likely? I don't know. There's a lot of good players out right now.
Yeah.
Winning right now is difficult. So it's hard. We saw with Rory how hard it is, and Rory is one of a kind. So is Scotty going to do it on the first go? It's possible, but I doubt it. Let's call that the experienced golf guy in me.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why so few have been able to get over the line. You talk about great golfers, Phil Mickelson, how it evaded him so many times at the US Open. So yeah, I think it's nice to be a romantic. Yeah.
Well, this is where I want to say to our South African fans, because we tend to be a bit naughty, where we like fair weather. When someone's going great, we loving the guy, and when they're going bad, everyone's crapping on the guy. People need to appreciate how great Gary Player was, and how great he still is. Where it's age 89 or whatever he is now still.
Yeah.
You watch him, he still works out. He still hits the ball, hard off the first tee there at Augusta National. His passion for the game is as strong as it's ever been. So yeah, Gary, part of that Grand Slam winning crew. It's a tremendous feat. Tremendous feat.
Speaking about the competitors, something I've wondered, you mentioned the standard of golf is just so high at the moment, the caliber of golfers that are in contention at these big time events. Who's a golfer on the PGA Tour right now that not many people are talking about, that everybody should actually be talking about?
Wow, that's a good question. Probably all these youngsters coming out. I don't think, and again, this is recency bias, so forgive me, I don't think Alex Smalley is getting the respect that he deserves. He's just a beautiful golfer, very smart, cerebral, sort of kind. There's a young kid from Texas, Pearson Coody, who's special. He just hasn't fulfilled what he's capable of. Gosh, I'd need to see a list of people.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a hell of a question to just bomb on you like that, but I just thought you
no,
get
no.
one
Well,
shot at it, right?
yeah. Well, it's a good question, and it's the kind of question I guess I could only get wrong. Um, but those are the ones, man. I've got something on the tip of my tongue that I can't think of right now. But the players kind of know. You get these ones that come out that you have a look and you're like, that one's special. Maybe it'll come to me after the next question, but those two sort of jump out at me.
What is it about a player when you see a person for the first time, you see a golfer for the first time, you think, wow, makes you just take a second look when you see that guy on the range for the first time, when you see him hit that shot off the tee? Is there something that you can put words to that sort of encapsulates that aura or that response?
Yeah, it's just for me when I walk up and down the range, it's the way the ball's struck and the sound that it makes. Um, the A great ball striker, the thing makes a different sound, and the ball climbs differently. So that's what jumps out at me. Like when Pearson Coody hits it, it's hit,
Really?
and it takes off quickly and it goes. Um, the so that's the main thing. But then when you watch them play too, I call it, because golf is easy to panic when things aren't going right. You will see when things get hard, the really good golfer, they don't really show panic, which was why Rory was so popular, because you can see when Rory's going well and Rory's going badly. But then when Scotty's going well and badly, he's a bit more chippy now than what he used to be. But it doesn't ever look like he's panicked because he knows he's good. It's like Tiger Woods over 4 rounds. Tiger knew that after 4 rounds, no one could outlast him. So even if he had a bad day, it was not like he's freaking out. Like that's where, like Bryson DeChambeau is such an interesting case study. Like the way he drives it, no one should beat him. But there's more to it than driving the ball well. But if you watch Bryson, you'll see him go through every emotion there is in a round of golf, from elation to complete disgust to sadness. So he wears it on the sleeve. So that's where he's a bit different. And Rory is really the human person, and that's why his major championship victory at the Masters gripped the world. But to me, the really special one, it's like they know they're good. And so when stuff goes badly, you don't see them reacting, because the person to me that's reacting, like when I was in college, the junior throwing clubs or the junior pouting, that's the junior who's trying to prove to someone that they think they're better than what they are, that they don't hit bad shots. So the good golfer, when he or she hits a bad shot, he's like, whatever, I've got a good short game, I'm going to be fine. And then he's like, well, it's just one shot, I've got another 278 of these things. When the chips are down, I'm probably going to be near the top of the leaderboard. So that's the thing that stands out to me.
Yeah. Something that stands out to me, I had this conversation, I chat a lot about golf, obviously training a lot of golfers and your weekend warriors and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got ex-professionals that have retired and, really seasoned people in the game. And what stands out to me week in and week out is how difficult it is to play 4 rounds of golf well consecutively.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I say to these my weekend warriors, I'm like, okay, you play. Let's say they play twice a week. Most of them play like on a Wednesday and a Saturday in the club compo. It's like, when's the last time
Mm-hmm.
that you played 4 good rounds where you pretty much you shot your handicap, you shot 36 Stableford points or better,
Yeah.
4 consecutive rounds? And I mean, they're gonna have to go back years, if ever, right?
Yeah.
And I just find it remarkable that these guys at this level are the Scotties of the world. A guy like Justin Rose, for example, comes to mind, who's, I mean, his whole career has been that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
to put 4 decent rounds of golf together back to back, it's just the most incredible ability. And it stands out to me all the time.
That is such a good take, and you've stirred my mind a bit here, because you talk about golfers that shouldn't get the credit they deserve. Justin Rose is one for what he's doing right now. and how hard he works and what he does behind the scenes to be competitive. Adam Scott is another who is longer and is hitting it better now than what he did when he was winning events. So those guys, it's like we take it for granted, right? Because they're stars, but I don't think they're getting the recognition they should. Where how they're competing with kids that are half their age,
Yeah,
and still relevant. Um, but you're right. It's the the work that gets done behind the scenes to be able to play 4 rounds consecutively at a super high level. Because we very rarely get flat golf courses these guys walk around. Like 4 rounds around Augusta National is hard work. Like you get people that go there for a couple of days that walk the golf course, they're exhausted after 1 round. And then people say golfers aren't athletes. I'll contend otherwise. That amount of time on your feet, we're going at that speed, all the balls are hit in practice, all the gym work, all the recovery work. Yeah, it's not guys in checkered pants and polyester shirts anymore.
yeah,
These are athletes that are playing this game, and so to your point, it's so well founded that I feel like people don't get the like you'll see a guy fade maybe on Sunday afternoon, and you're like, what's going on with him? I'm like, well, this might be the fourth week in a row he's playing, and he's played all 4 rounds, and he's contended. So there's an emotional and mental toll being brought to bear, and there's all the practice time. It's grueling. I'll tell you this much: I carry a microphone around the place, and on Monday mornings when I get home, I'm just completely beaten. It takes me like a day to recover properly. So it's these guys do yeoman's work to play at the level they do.
yeah, yeah. Well said. Mark, what's got you excited about the rest of the year? I mean, still a lot on the golfing calendar. What has got you excited about the rest of 2026? Could be on the podcast front, could be on the golfing front, could be on your book front. I know you've got an awesome book that you released not too long ago, still pretty recent. So, what do you got going on for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the year?
Uh, well, CBS, we've got. I love going over to the Scottish Open, which we cover. We stay in a hotel, the Marine, which is right on North Berwick, which is sensational. So I'm looking forward to that. We always do. My family will meet me there. And then CBS has the playoffs as well, which is fun. You know, the playoffs alternate between NBC and CBS. So we've got the three playoffs in Memphis and St. Louis and Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of a home game for me, which is always fun. Then I've just done a deal because I also, on non CBS weeks, I work for the PGA Tour broadcast network. And they do the world feed that you guys sometimes get over in South Africa and around the world. And I've just done a deal to be on the announce crew for the President's Cup in Chicago
Well
for the
done, man.
world feed, which is exciting. So I'm going to. You'll hear my voice there on that show that you're watching. Hopefully, we can somehow get the internationals to pull through. Jeff Ogilvy, I was with him here recently. Going to be a tremendous captain, and all of the international team guys are playing really well right now. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm also looking forward to some time after August when CBS is finished and football starts, just to kind of be home and be dad for a little while and husband.
Yeah.
So there's a little me time, but also some really cool golf events we're going to do.
Nice. Fantastic, man. If people don't know where to find you, which I'm sure if they're listening to this, they already do, can you direct them if they're listening and they want to get hold of your book or if they want to follow the show, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure. Probably markimmelman.com. The website is the easiest way. But if you search on YouTube, that's where you can see all the golf tips and stuff. There's a group of very talented videographers that have collaborated with me. We're starting a channel called Markology on YouTube, which I think it's going to be up in a few weeks' time. Again, I shouldn't date this. We're in June now in 2026. Which is kind of a one-stop shop for golf instruction and playing rounds of golf with personalities and a lot of swing analysis. In fact, this afternoon I've got some of that to do. So markimmelman.com, YouTube, Instagram, Mark_Immelman, I think it is. I don't tweet much anymore because the place is a bit of a cesspool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Instagram's where I do most of my work. Instagram and YouTube.
Nice, man. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. As somebody who enjoys commentary as almost as much as golf, It's been, from a personal standpoint, it's been really enthralling episode for me, just to pick your brain and get some insights into the game, as well as what happens when we listen to you guys all the way back here in South Africa. So thank you very much.
Well, yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. I do want to say this. I'm proudly South African, and a lot of folks kind of figure, well, you guys go overseas and you're going to stay in the United States and stuff. I'm fortunate to be here, but the truth is, I'd much rather be in South Africa because it's home, and I'm a rabid South African sports fan. Looking forward to the Soccer World Cup and all the rugby to come and stuff like that. So for all the kids and all the people over in South Africa, know that Trevor and I are flying the flag as much as we can over here, and we love to come home. And I look forward to my next trip back home because there's so many cool golf courses to play and just to get back into the culture. So I appreciate being on your show because it's a way for us to connect with some of the folks over in the homeland. Thank you.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. Thanks so much, Mark. Hey everyone. A huge amount of work and effort goes into producing this podcast, whether it's from the research going into the episode, whether it's finding the guests coming to the location, or them being online, to producing the content, edited and putting it in a format that is conducive to your ears and your eyes. And it goes a really, really long way if you can just do me one thing in return for this free content: share it. Share it far and wide, and if you find an episode useful, send it to someone who might feel the same way. That's all. Thanks a million. See you next week.